All right. We return. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Appreciate you joining with us this morning. You know, I posted an article up over the course of the weekend on our website, AmericasVoiceNow.org. And it's titled, "What Kind of President Knowingly, Willfully, Intentionally Injures the Citizenry and His Own Nation?" And the reason I ask that question is because the news over the course of the last week during this shutdown issue has been alive with the fact that the Obama administration is intentionally making the government shutdown as painful as it possibly can. Kai, I'll call you back as soon as I get off the radio. That was my son from Afghanistan. You see, the Obama administration is making the government shutdown as painful to citizens as he possibly can. The examples are out there everywhere of closing national parks, even when the federal government doesn't pay for them. Even when the federal government is not a participant or has no budgetary involvement in that, they're shutting them down. Cutting off the military from sports programming, while simultaneously leaving the website open for Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign, while then shutting down the FCC database and the FCC website. Go to fcc.gov. That's Federal Communications Commission, right? Let me tell you something. I develop websites as a business. That's what I do. And when you have a website that exists already, there is zero cost to maintaining that website and keeping that information up on the air. There's no budgetary expenditure that is required to keep that information on the air. Just the cost of the server itself, which I got to tell you, folks, it's so nominal, it's not even worthy of discussion. The Obama family's meals for one day during the week exceeds the cost of running that server to keep the FCC on the air. And here's the problem. You see, millions of businesses go to the FCC website every day for information on issues, on what's happening with what are the rules and what are the regulations. The government is willfully and intentionally shut that site down. They've shut down the Amber Alert system. But they've left Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign on? Come on. The Obama administration has closed, you're not going to believe this one. I mean, this is an utterly astounding piece of information. The federal government is trying to close the ocean because of the shutdown. The National Park Service informed charter boat captains in Florida that the entire Florida Bay, that's 1,100 square miles of open ocean, was closed due to the shutdown. Fishing boats, charter boats, private boats, personal watercraft, none of it's allowed. And also the Biscayne National Park is closed. And here's the worst part. They're going to put Park Service rangers on duty to police the ban. Police the ban of access to the ocean? Yes. It's going to take more resources and personnel to police this ban than it would to just leave it alone. And simultaneously, the reports are now coming in that the Border Patrol has been ordered to stand down. So we're standing down the Border Patrol, who protects us from unauthorized illegal immigrants and terrorist activity and intrusion of terrorists on our border. while we're closing off the ocean to fishing vessels. I mean, come on, people. What the hell is going on here? These actions don't make this administration look petty. They make it look criminal, bordering on treasonous. Knowing something about web development and websites, I got to tell you, keeping static content available on an existing website costs absolutely zero. Now, I get it if they wanted to put up a little splash page that said everything from, date 1, October 1st, is no longer will no longer be updated. This is for historical purposes only because, the information won't be updated anything after October 1st. But pulling down all of that information so that no one has access to it in an effort to willfully and intentionally hurt the nation is wrong. Blocking access to literally tens of thousands of pages of content is a temper tantrum, not fiscal governance. Closing the Blue Ridge Parkway, closing inns and historical sites, quite frankly at gunpoint, literally at gunpoint, ladies and gentlemen. They're sending park officers who never show up at these parks to close them, national parks, that are funded, quite frankly, by private donations and public commerce. In other words, the expenditure of public money. That's not cutting back. It's willful damage perpetrated on the nation by, quite frankly, a president who is acting like a petulant child having a hissy fit. Worse yet, it is destroying industry, it is destroying businesses, and costing us literally billions of dollars as a nation in lost revenue, productivity, and it has already damaged our international reputation. Let's not think for a moment that the world isn't laughing uproariously at those crazy Americans who cut off their own nose to spite their face. If we look at these true facts in an honest and forthright manner, it's clear that both parties are at fault. And both parties are using the nation and their serfs, that would be us, as pawns in what clearly amounts to a game of thrones for them. Obama's attempt to keep the serfs out of the surf by closing the Florida Bay and the open ocean is a glaring example of the intentional scorched earth mentality and actions of this president. These aren't functions or locations that require resources. The ocean has been there for millennia, and it's been doing just fine without park police patrolling it. If they would only apply so much energy and resources to protecting our southern border, we might actually have something worth cheering about. What is made abundantly clear by each of these examples is how far this president is willing to go to actually hurt the country he claims to have an allegiance to. His sworn duty and his oath is to act in the best interests of the nation. Hurting small businesses, families, veterans, hikers, campers, fishermen, industry, and the whole market segment that make up our GDP, in order to make some sort of an egotistical point, is not only uncalled for, it is tantamount to a criminal act. Neither party is exempt from blame on this issue. Let's be honest. But it is worthy of mention that the job of Congress is not to acquiesce to everything that the president wants. Obamacare was passed by the Democratic group only. Not a single Republican voted for Obamacare in either house. Using the purse to throttle executive or even party overreach has a historical basis in it that goes all the way back to the founders. And lest anybody think that this is a party issue, there is ample empirical evidence to the contrary. Both of these parties have sadly betrayed us for generations. What this is about is our nation and governing by temper tantrum. And it is abusive of this administration's imagined power and authority. No president has the right to willfully hurt the citizenry and damage this nation, no matter what. We, the people, have given both parties of this government power, a power of attorney to act on our behalf so that we can have a society that is lawful, peaceful, and cooperatively functional. But the key operative phrase is on our behalf. They violated their fiduciary responsibility to us. And that is the core of this issue. Whether the elephants would stoop to doing this kind of intentional rape and pillage of the nation on purpose is not really germane to the issue. The fact is, the Republicans would probably do this if they were in the catbird seat, too. But they have approved numerous bills, and they are passing more every single hour to fund everything either collectively or as standalone appropriations. Now, for the record, government is supposed to work by appropriation. In other words, the bills are supposed to come from the House saying this is budgeted and paid for, this is budgeted and paid for, etc., etc. For the record, that's how the government is supposed to work. The omnibus passage of bills, budgets, and law has only given us national indigestion and agita. Each appropriation should stand on its own merits. In other words, is this a worthwhile expenditure of our resources? Otherwise, how do we keep track of the trillions being spent allegedly on our behalf? Congress has even made the offer, irrespective of why they've made it, and I don't care what kind of coercive pressure was applied, to fund Obamacare as long as the individual mandate portion of this was levied on Congress itself. And even that minor, but obviously logical, legal, and ethical amendment was dismissed. This all-or-nothing strategy is diametrically opposed to common sense, ethics, integrity, honesty, and honor. But alas, I should remember, we're talking about Congress and the president here. In short, what we have now is two entities who believe that each of them are above the law. That we, the people, as the true body of the nation, should submit to being hacked, surgically sliced and diced, and starved of the fruits of our labor, our effort, and our will. After all, don't we, the people, collectively own all of this? That we should merely be silent and acquiesce is wrong. It's not okay for us to be used as pawns in this Game of Thrones. Regardless of where you stand on the ideological line, and I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican, I don't care if you're a Muslim or a Christian or a Buddhist or a Catholic, I don't care what you are. Irrespective of what party you cleave to, this is wrong for America, and it is wrong for we, the people. It's hurting us in ways that that will not expose itself and won't show until all the dust is settled. But it will have long-term ramifications to us, nevertheless. Willful, injurious action taken by this administration with the express intent to harm is intolerable and it must be rejected by every single American. Refusing to see that, or using some sort of misdirection and party allegiance and ideology to support that ideological basis, is merely being intellectually dishonest. These are sad times in our nation. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. Thank you for joining with us today. We appreciate you. We'll have more updates for you as we move further down the week into our brand new video format that we're working on in our new studio. You can find us on the website or on the web by going to AmericasVoiceNow.org. You can also find us on our Facebook website or Facebook page at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And then you can find this and every other program that we do on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. I encourage you to share information that you gather here from this program with your friends and relatives. If you find it's of value or appropriate for educating those around you, by all means, please feel free to use it. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. Thank you and have a great day.